welcome to News from the Heart with Swami Chaitanananda, and I am Heather George. We are having a lot of fun talking about a lot of different topics in these episodes, and today Swami Ji and I thought we'd talk about a politician that has been popular, at least on Facebook, for us, and we really like, and I wanted to hear more about why Swami Ji. You know, this is your video blog. Another way that you, or at least all of us, get to connect to you and see what's going through your heart and mind is through your Facebook page, and you post a lot about Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders is the independent senator from Vermont who is a socialist. So let me give you some context. A long time ago, let's say 15,000 years ago, when village life was, probably village life was much earlier, but let's just say 15,000 years ago. And in those days, the biggest, toughest guy in the village, and this also goes on today exactly like this, the biggest, toughest guy in the village, he beats the shit out of everybody, all the other guys in the village. He gets half the resources and as many girls as he wants. And when his village mates begin to gang up together to try to get their stuff back, what he says to them is, well, why risk hurting yourselves, and tearing our village apart? Why don't we, if you want more, why don't we go over to the next village and we'll kill them and take their shit.
And get their girls.
And of course. And this is the beginning of the business model which flourished in prehistory, from Imperial Egypt to Imperial Persia, even in Greece, which was supposedly Republican. All that meant was that there were a bunch of people who were probably of equal strength, and they all got together and said, okay, we'll work out an amicable division, we'll kill all the little people who resist us, and we'll just take their stuff, and then we'll split it. The Roman business model was kill people and steal their shit. That was it. And Caesar wrote his own history of his conquest of the barbarians. And then Terry Jones did a magnificent, really funny, charming 4-piece series, which I think you can probably see on Netflix, called Who Are the Barbarians?, in which he really explores the topic and discovers that the barbarians are the people who taught Rome to do every civilized thing they did. And the only thing the Romans had on anybody was their military technology was very, very good. But their business model was kill people and steal their shit. And when their business model fell apart, when there were no more people to kill and no more shit to steal, and they started killing each other and stealing their shit. So 15,000
years of this village culture.
Here we come to, exactly, and here we come to the point where, the failure of the Roman Empire, and later on the monarchies that, replaced the Roman Empire, was really sort of dealt with in a different way. Okay, let's have competition. Let's make rules that we'll all agree on, so that we're not killing people and stealing their shit. We're just competing with each other in a very sporting-like fashion. We have rules, we're civilized, and we will, work hard to generate more and more and more resources that we can consume. And, we'll do that on the backs of a whole bunch of, weaker people who will, well, yes, they'll die in the process of generating our wealth, but they'll die more slowly and hopefully, with less blood spilled. That is the place where we come to today, where capitalism, which was never a good thing, has completely run out of gas. So they're paying people to work and then charging them more money than they're being paid to buy their stuff, and loaning them the money that they need to buy their stuff and charging interest on it, so they're even making more money. And we have a whole game going that is completely rigged and totally inappropriate to the level of population which the capitalists have generated now and the level of resource consumption that population requires. So I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders. I like Bernie Sanders, and because it's time that we began to think about the quality of our communities and the quality of life that we are leaving to our children. And it's time to think about, simplifying our relationships with one another and simplifying our resource consumption so that, there's actually something for our great-grandchildren to consume.
Currently, Senator.
He's thinking of running for president.
Okay.
He has no idea, of course, that he's not thinking he's going to win. But what he really wants to do is raise awareness of the dire circumstance that humanity exists in.
Is there anybody else out there like him? Does he have support? You think he's
Elizabeth Warren is a person who's brilliant, connected, and has enormous integrity. So she's another person I really like.
Is it possible for people with these kind of goals to make it to?
I think that it's possible for them to. They both made it to senator. That's probably as far as they're going to be able to go. And I think really and truly in both cases that is the end of their ambition. And that capitalism is what, we are brainwashed from the first moment that we open our eyes is the true, economic and social system which has been handed down by God. And frankly, that's just crap. And in Northern Europe, in the era before this millennium, and for a few thousand years before this millennium, Northern Europeans were totally committed to developing their communities. They didn't have leaders. They had, meetings. They communicated with each other about the best interest for the quality of life in that community. And the only time they ever had a single leader was in times of war. So, I do believe that Bernie Sanders is speaking to, our current circumstance in ways that nobody else has any interest in doing because they're basically completely, embedded in the need for power and money. I think Elizabeth Warren is an extraordinary woman whose sense of humor, whose connectedness to the ordinary people and the ordinary life of America is really far out. And I like what these people have to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you in those ways and acknowledge the difference of holding the kind of space you do with this philosophy, with this mindset, and the different challenge they have doing it inside the belly of the beast.
Well, you'll never change the beast from the inside. That's just, people have said that all along. It never happens. The reason why I'm interested at all is because, first, I've lived in the middle of a community of a few hundred people for all my life. And I have seen that people have basic needs before they can get to spiritual practice. They have to have enough food. There can't be like a financial burden hanging on them that they, have no hope of ever offloading, because then that it's that day-to-day money grind and the insecurity that the money thing generates. It constantly eats into people and turns them into balls of tension. So really and truly, we ought to have, if we had a society that was concerned about its own best qualities, and really concerned about the welfare of the people who are part of the society, then we would do things a lot differently than we're doing them now. And so, it is inevitable that we will come to a place in time where, you know, resource distribution, resource allocation is going to be the significant topic. And if we haven't thought of that early and begun to discuss it soon, what's going to happen is we're going to revert to the imperial model, and the 1% is going to start killing people again and stealing their shit.
And so from outside the belly of that beast, you're doing that on a small scale with our community, and have been for over 40 years. You've developed a somewhat sustainable model. If Bernie and Elizabeth can get into the belly of the beast and help change that to make that more possible for more people.
I'm afraid the belly, I give the beast indigestion. That suits me fine.
Well, I like the thought of what we're talking about mostly because, I mean, bless their hearts, it's a losing battle what Bernie and Elizabeth are doing, but they're holding a space on a bigger stage than maybe, you know, our blog is going to reach. Maybe someday, if enough people start talking, maybe it'll become a national conversation. The thing I really object to about our government today is that, you know, if any organization, and lots of you, I think probably who look at this, you know, work in organizations. Any organization that is not committed to the quality of the lives of the people who are a part of that organization is doomed to be fourth rate. And in our lifetime, what we have seen is America going from a first-rate country to a fourth-rate country, and a country that had leadership that was concerned for the well-being of the whole, to people who are basically venal and greedy and anxiously, you know, actively promoting ignorance and intolerance. And this is a very extremely unfortunate environment for us to have to live and practice in. Well, I'm trying to make it end on an up note. Appreciate what you've done. I have stepped into an environment that is not, I don't know if easier is, in fact, easier is not the right word because I'm working a lot, but the things that you're talking about, you're preaching, we practice here, and I think it is possible. I think maybe on that larger governmental scale, maybe not possible, but hopefully people can find communities with leaders like you to do some practicing of what you just preached. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you again on News from the Heart with more fun topics.